Hi Warren. In the past, you've been a master at getting Wales together in the midst of sort of off-field uncertainty. How do you go about doing that again now? Or is there a risk of distraction with so many players' futures uncertain at the moment?
I think that one of the things that we've done in the past is that we've worked incredibly hard as a group, and will continue to do so, and that's tended to build a lot of confidence within the squad, and games that we were able to hang in there in terms of the conditioning that we had, that we stayed in the fight for as long as possible, and we were able to grind out wins against quality opposition and build confidence from that. So I know this group will work hard. The thing about the Welsh boys is that they've got that ability to work hard. They never question you in terms of how hard they work, and if you ask them to run through a brick wall, the question that they'll give you is, what do you want us to do when we get to the other side? So that's kind of that's definitely in the past made my job easy from that perspective. Like I said, it's created a lot of confidence within the group, and we've got a new coaching group together that we need to embed in over a pretty short period, and I think the thing is that we give the players as much clarity as possible about what the way we want to play and the way that we want to do things, and as a coaching team that we're all singing off the same page, and the players are receive all the consistent messages from the coaches to hopefully give us the best possible performance.
You were honest last week that a few more players could leave. I mean, how concerning is that for you potentially within the next year, and obviously potentially the next World Cup cycle as well?
Yeah, I think that there's a possibility. One of the things that I do is I can't blame players for exploring the options, because there's a certain level of uncertainty about Welsh rugby at the moment, particularly for those players that are out of contract and stuff, and they need to think about their own personal situation, and that's perfectly understandable. And from my perspective, I'd love to make sure that we keep our top players potentially in Wales, or with this uncertainty, do we need to look at that 60 cap rule? Because at the moment I don't kind of feel it's fit for purpose if there's this much uncertainty in the game in Wales at the moment about the future of a number of our players, being able to re-sign that. But I think we need to keep them into perspective that it's still January at the moment, and if you go back a number of years, then those contracts didn't used to be discussed until about March, and with the advent of agents and stuff and them having more influence in the game, they tend to be done a good 12 months out from when the contract's up. So that has definitely been a big change in the game, because players tend to re-sign before their form's even been judged on that current season, and that's what we used to do in the past. We used to see how players had performed for 7 or 8 months before you sort of went into a contract negotiation. So there's definitely been a change in that, but I can understand that, because everyone's looking for certainty about what's going to happen to them in the future.
Ben wants to ask some questions, if that's all right.
I was just going to ask, you mentioned the 60 cap rule. Is that something that you would discuss with Steve then?
It's not. I think it's a PRG's decision in terms of the group between the union and the regions, and I think it's definitely something that we need to talk about, because it's potentially this year, towards the end of the year, then there could be 2 or 3 players that may not, under the current regulations, be available to us at the World Cup, and I just think that we need to be pragmatic, and it would be disappointing that if some players miss out, why shoot ourselves in the foot if we don't have to? Because there has been so much turmoil in terms of trying to sort out the agreement between the union and the regions, and once that gets done, then hopefully we can take a positive step moving forward.
Warren, when you compare this squad to the group you had in 2008 and the situation that team was in, are you coming in now with the team in a much better position, do you think?
I think that 2008 was easy enough. It was just about the Ospreys team playing at the start of the tournament, and they were going all right. there's definitely some real quality that I've seen and been excited about over recent weeks in terms of some of the youngsters coming through. Been some good performances as well, so that gives us hopefully some self-belief about where we're going, and it's great to see the region start to perform, because that, to me, that was a little bit of a concern when I came in. You looked at the URC and you see 3 teams towards the bottom and 1 team sort of in the bottom half, even Cardiff being at 10th, and then you see a turnaround in terms of in recent weeks the performance in Europe, and that's really encouraging. And so hopefully we can build on that over the next number of weeks. The first game up is going to be tough, but like I said, it's not a bad one to get first up.
In 2008, you had that win at Twickenham to start. Can a first win just be transformative for the whole campaign and change expectations? Yeah,
I think the way this competition is, it's definitely a competition that creates momentum, and it's not. I don't think it's. There's a lot of difference between finishing sometimes, top in the competition or finishing the other end. It's just about. Sometimes it can be a little bit of luck and a bounce of the ball, and you win a couple of games, and you build on that, and like I said, you create that momentum. And the same thing can happen if you lose a couple of games as well. You can find it difficult to get out of a hole. So, the start's important, and for us, and for particularly that first game for us in Ireland, is that whoever wins that game, you're still alive in both competitions. You're still alive in the Triple Crown. You're still alive for winning a Grand Slam. So that's what makes it. Getting off in this tournament to a win is pretty important.
Okay. Ken, one question about France. Seen from the pitch, could you explain us what are the strengths of this team, please?
I think the depth of their squad is incredible, but they've always been talented team. France playing an open, expansive game. I think one thing they've really added over the last couple of years is a very strong defensive setup and very disciplined team. And I always enjoy playing against them because of the sort of confrontational nature that they play at, and it's always a challenge as a front rower, especially. But I think their biggest strength is probably their strength and depth and the quality that they got within their squad.
Yes, morning.
Yeah.
With Ireland top of the world, France coming off the back of a perfect year, England and Wales with new coaches, Scotland arguably should have beaten the All Blacks, Italy beat Australia. Is this the most competitive Six Nations you can remember?
Yeah, I think there's been. I can remember when the Six Nations was all the talk was just about France and England. Who was going to fight out for winning the Six Nations. So it's. I think it's fantastic for the game having such a competitive Six Nations. I think world rugby in general at the moment, there's teams that are on their day are capable of beating each other, and I think we're heading into a World Cup where there's no clear. There's favouritism a little bit, but there's probably half a dozen teams, 7 or 8 teams who, with a little bit of luck and stuff, feel that they're capable of winning a World Cup, and I think that's brilliant for rugby.
And when you look at England with Steve Borthwick coming in, are they a long way away from being a very competitive team?
Oh, they should never be that far away, given the strength and depth they've got and the resources they've got available to them. And they should. I always think England should always be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the world, and probably that's the thing that they, again, a little bit like Wales in terms of having that consistency of performance. And I think Steve will be, having worked with Steve, he'll be, very pragmatic in his initial approach with England. He'll be thinking they want to have a good Six Nations, but also thinking a little bit long term, even though he's not saying that. And if you look at Leicester in the last couple of years and the success that's been built on, that has been solid foundations. Have been really strong up front in terms of set piece and having a strong kicking game. I think he'll start with making sure that he gets the basics right and then build from there.
Okay, so I think now it's Sunday Writers, so...
I've got one for the dailies actually.
Oh.
Johnny Sexton was asked earlier about the waist tackle heights that have been introduced to the community game. He wasn't a fan. What do you think of that? Would you welcome it in Wales?
Probably haven't looked into it too much or just understand it that much, but I think anything we can do to make the game safer can only be a good thing. So yeah, I think anything we do to try and make the game safer for everybody, more inclusive, the better it can be.